Did you know that the father of Isaac Newton was also named Isaac Newton? It is almost impossible to imagine the world of science without the name of Isaac Newton. He was the first scientist who legitimately tried to find an explanation for why any object of any weight falls only to the ground in today's world. Isaac Newton is usually depicted with an apple. This is because he is said to have had an aha moment when he was hit on the head with a big old apple. Contrary to such claims, there is no hard evidence for this story. It is possible, however, that he made his first observations about the force of gravity while watching a falling apple. Here are 20 of the most interesting facts about Isaac Newton that you need to know. Isaac Newton fit into a quart-sized cup when he was an infant, according to the words of his mother. He was so small due to his premature birth on December 25, 1642. The father of Isaac Newton was also named Isaac Newton, in honor of his father, who had died only 3 months before his birth. Young Isaac was given the same name. His mother, Hannah Askow, left him when he was just 3 years old. She went to live with her new husband, leaving him in the care of his maternal grandmother. With his mother and stepfather inside, Isaac Newton threatened to burn down a house. Isaac grew up resenting his stepfather, Reverend Barnabas Smith. His mother had 3 children with Smith. Young Newton also did not get along well with his mother. He kept a personal journal in which he recorded everything he confessed. Isaac Newton's mother's dream for him was to be a farmer. However, Newton's hatred of the profession was quite literal. Overall, his rural lifestyle was unsuccessful. His mother allowed him to get a formal education because she knew he was not cut out for farm work. Because of his shy and quiet nature, Isaac Newton was bullied at school, according to tales. He tried to prove himself superior to everyone else and focused entirely on academics. Eventually, he achieved this dream. Between the ages of 12 and 17, Isaac Newton got an education at the King's School, Grantham. During this time, he stayed with William Clark, who inspired Isaac Newton's interest in chemistry. The King's School is still in use today, and you can see Newton's engraved signature on one of the school's windowsills. He was helped into Trinity College by his uncle, Rev. William Askow. In June 1661, this was in Cambridge, since he did not have a great deal of wealth. He worked several part-time jobs in order to pay for his education. Most of the time he worked as a valet. In 1664, Isaac Newton was awarded a 4-year scholarship to study at Cambridge University. That gave him a chance to turn his part-time jobs into quality leisure where he could contemplate new ideas. His education was interrupted by the bubonic plague of 1665. Isaac Newton returned to Woolsthorpe Manor to continue his scientific work during the 2 years that Cambridge University was closed. In fact, it was an extremely productive time for him. It was during this time that he saw a falling apple in the gardens of Woolsthorpe Manor. At the age of 27, he became a professor of mathematics at Cambridge University. This was only a year after receiving his master's degree. Professor Isaac Burrow was impressed with Isaac Newton's mathematical work. He gave his position to Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton wasn't a smart investor. Although he invented calculus, he lost over £20,000 on his investment in the South Sea Company. This amount would be over $3 million in today's money. Since this unpleasant event, he has forbidden anyone to mention the name South Sea in his presence. His writings are more on religion and alchemy than they are on science. But this side of him remained hidden. It was not until the 1960s that his 10 million words of papers were made public. Interestingly, during his lifetime, Newton did not often share his religious views, he only wrote about them. Newton's descendants also kept these papers secret, fearing that they would ruin his reputation and lead to him being accepted as a heretic. Why is it that apples are falling to the ground? Why doesn't the moon, sun, and all the stars fall to the ground also? Those were the questions Isaac Newton brainstormed in his head. And, probably, Those were curiosities that paved the way for his accomplishments in the theory of gravity. One of Isaac Newton's most well-known books was the Principia. Newton's Principia was a collection of 3 books in which Isaac Newton wrote about the theory of gravity. Among many other ideas, in the book, he shares 3 important laws of motion that we know as Newton's 3 laws. The first says that without an external force, a stationary object will not move, and without an external force, a moving object will not stop. The second law is that the greater the force, the greater the acceleration. The third law is, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. For example, a balloon goes up and air goes down. Isaac Newton was a member of the Parliament of England. While serving in Parliament, Newton did not contribute anything worth mentioning. Instead, some historians humorously mention that all Newton did while in Parliament was complain about the room temperature and ask that the windows be closed. Isaac Newton never got married. Some historians suggest that the administration of Cambridge usually encouraged its students, fellows, and professors to live celibate lives because Cambridge was the heir to the Catholic University system. As a respected member of the University of Cambridge, and someone who was always in the pursuit of science, Isaac Newton may not have found time for a personal life, or he may have simply not wanted any distractions. Asperger's syndrome may have affected Isaac Newton through extensive study of his journals and biography. Scientists have concluded that symptoms of Asperger's were present in Newton. The social life of Isaac Newton was poor. He rarely spoke and had anger problems. Sometimes he even forgot to eat because he was too preoccupied with his work. Students attended Newton's lectures poorly, but he gave them anyway. He rarely canceled his lectures, although sometimes students did not show up. Isaac Newton spent 30 years at Cambridge, but he showed little interest in his students or in what he taught. Students barely understood his lectures, according to some historians. His main focus was on his own research. Isaac Newton died at the age of 84 from severe stomach pain. As he passed the age of 80, he began to experience digestive problems, which forced him to go on a strict diet. Newton's death in his sleep was on March 31, 1727. Happened. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video so you don't miss out on other fun and informative history videos. See you in the next episode.